Taking a journey through life can sometimes feel like a beautiful chaos. Join me as each episode depicts learning to pause, take in, and express gratitude when seeking to know what each season of life has to offer. My name is Gift Nwosu. Welcome to Breakthrough Podcast. Hello, welcome back to another episode of this podcast, Breakthrough. I am your host, Gift Nwosu, and I'm very happy to be back today. Today's topic is one that I've really wanted to talk about for a minute now. Like I said, you guys, even during my breaks, so many ideas were coming forth, but obviously I wasn't able to record, but I was taking note, and one of them is, what does support look like? I feel like this topic dropped on my mind simply because a huge milestone was crossed this year, which was planning a wedding, which was successful by the grace of God, thank God. But during that time, I felt an immense amount of support. I feel like I was able to really understand what support looked like, what support felt like, how to ask for support, how to build support when it comes to building a support system, and also what it looks like managing expectation when it comes to support, or desiring support so you don't end up being hurt, of course. So I feel like I was able to see all sides of what that coin looked like, and it felt like a good time to do an episode on it. So let's jump right in. I would start off by wanting to define what support means from the Oxford Dictionary. It means to give or be ready to give help to somebody if they need it. Very simple, straight to the point, to give help to somebody. I want to start off by defining support beyond the surface level. I feel like when I used to think about support, I used to think about obviously helping somebody, making someone's life easier, showing up for people. That was a heavy one and still is. I used to think about just being there, whether you're not there physically, but being there in some way or the other, virtually, a call, a text, praying for somebody, just offloading life off somebody else. And it's still all of that in so many different ways. But I feel like support goes way beyond that. At least how support is received on another end goes way beyond that. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the subtle ways that people can ignore what support is, or how to receive support. I want to talk about the subtle things that could be happening in your life that is really support and you might be ignoring because it doesn't feel like a grand gesture. I want to talk about how support differs from person to person. I want to talk about how support changes as you get older. So let's just jump right in. I do truly believe that everyone experiences or desires support in different ways. I feel like growing up with my parents, living in my parents' house, I feel like I always had a support system with my family. Definitely my parents, they were always there. I can't count a time where I looked back and I didn't feel like my parents were present. Whether if it was physically, if they couldn't be there physically, they were always there in one way or the other. And I don't think I ever processed what friendship support looked like, or if that was even a thing. I feel like I just had friends. I hung out with my friends, and I just felt like the huge bulk of support came from family. But as you get older, I feel like life for everybody starts to become much busy, more demanding. There starts to be a huge portion of life that you start to need more of like people to offload you, whether it is emotionally, spiritually, mentally, or physically. And it changes person by person. How I viewed support when I was younger to now, I feel like I would admit that support probably takes a huge bucket in my life right now as I get older. I do think support can most times for me right now be felt in the subtle moments. And what does that look like? Perfect example, I think for a huge portion of some of my episodes, I'll probably reference wedding planning a lot, just because, you cannot plan a wedding and not experience what I'm talking about. I would say my wedding day, I felt support the most in the subtle moments, whether that looked like me needing my slippers and I looked over to somebody and like my slippers was just always right in front of me, or should I count back to my wedding morning in my bridal room, getting ready and needing to zip up my dress, and my sisters were there, and I had them like wearing my shoes for me. I had them spraying perfume all over me, zipping my dress up like I said, or my bridal party during the reception, like bringing slippers, lip gloss, perfume. What do you need? It felt like it was a subtle moment where I looked over and somebody was always just looking at me. It was almost like somebody was on standby waiting. What do you need? Have you eaten? Did you eat? Do you need me to bring you a drink? Do you need me to bring you food? You need to sit down. And I didn't know that I needed that. Because it wasn't something I hadn't like gone around my bridal party. I mean, obviously my sisters, when you're obviously like blood, you kind of have that expectation there already, set in stone that it's gonna be freely given, or given to some degree, that life makes room for. But on the other end of the bridal party, though this are my friends, some of my closest girls, I don't think I put like, this is what you need to be doing for me today, like assigned roles to anybody. But for some reason, everyone just kind of stepped up in ways that I didn't even know I needed. And I felt, I can't count how many times I smiled to myself like, oh God, I thank you for this moment right now, because it felt like I was seen. And I think it really defined to me what I needed someone else to experience. So a fellow bride out there, if I was part of your wedding, I needed you to be able to feel the way I felt. So when I talk about the subtle moments, I'm talking about moments that you don't even think about. You don't even think to ask for. You don't even think, like, for example, someone who's had a baby. You might not think that you want somebody to come in the room and maybe just massage your legs for you or just sit with you. Support looks like sometimes sitting still with a friend. Support at this stage of our lives, I feel, looks like a friend searching for a job and I don't have any job to give to you. I more than likely don't know anybody who can help you right now, but I'm here. I'm checking in. If you need me financially and I'm able to, I'm there. I feel like that's an ounce of support that people don't talk about. I feel like support looks like someone that lost a loved one and they feel your love the most in the times where everyone goes away and you're still calling, you're still visiting, you're bringing food. One thing I don't want is a generation or period or season of life where support is lost. I feel like that will be a very tough pill to swallow. And I also know that right now we also live in a generation that a little bit leans towards like, cut them off. If they do this, be gone, walk out, don't do this, don't do that, don't play with me. And I get it, I understand it to some degree, but it's been truly challenging and will be such a bitter pill for me if a sense of community and support was lost. Now, of course, like I said, support at those big things too. I think being there for a friend's milestones, showing up at a game, showing up at your friend's wedding, and actually carrying it on your head. I think being at those big events, that is support, and I want to challenge myself to continue to do. But I really challenge somebody out there to think about the subtle things that people don't think to ask about, and think about how you can be that for somebody else. I think another thing that I want to talk about is supporting relationships. Now, this is where the conversation gets challenging, because there are certain relationships in our life that there is that expectation, and this is where I see a lot of people, the hurt and the challenge comes from, and the tension, the conversation has a lot of tension, because when you're family, let's start with family. I feel like this one can be very tricky because, when you're blood, you have a huge level of, you need to be doing this for me. You need to be doing that for me. You need to show up for me in this way. You need to show up for me in that way. And I'm learning how tricky that can be. I'm learning that while life is playing out and doing its thing, it definitely becomes more challenging to have those kind of expectations. Not because they don't mean to do it for you, because truly people can fall short. People do fall short. So one thing I'm trying to do more of is manage those expectations, have those real life conversations. If it is something that, if there is an area of life that support needs to be given, I do think when it comes to family, more of a demand can be placed, of course with love and kindness. But I think as human beings, I'm learning that you have to still manage that expectation, because people will fall short. And at the end of the day, with how fast life is moving, one person being there in one season, they might not be there in the next season, and vice versa. It could be like they're here this season and they're not there, and then another season comes up and they're equally showing up just as much. So I've learned to give grace, and not the cliche kind of grace that we, a lot of times we talk about, where we're still like side-eyeing, like, yeah, okay, it's giving, you're not there for me. But grace in the sense of, if you don't expect it too much, you can't necessarily be hurt that it's not coming. So give grace in regards to, if you do fall short, there is benefit of the doubt given. I've learned to have tough conversations about what I need help with. I think this is the most challenging part of support. We are not vocal enough about where we need help. And I'm calling myself out too. Wedding planning has helped me to be more vocal. Wedding planning has helped me to call people and ask for help. More than likely, wedding planning drove me to the point where I was probably going crazy at some point, that I knew if I did not get help, shout out to my mom, big shout out to my mom, because I truly, and I really have to stop and give a big shout out to my mother, because I felt love during my wedding planning. My mom was there. She took on so many roles for me and my husband. Like, she was running, and I understand, and this is where the whole relationship and support come in. To some degree, one can say she has to do it, but I feel like even in the midst of people that you think have to do it, I'm still learning to be able to say thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being there. Thank you, because you couldn't not do it, but you chose to do it. You chose to exceed expectation even while doing it. I've learned to ask for support. I've learned there are times I'll call my mom and say, I really need you to do this. Call my sister, I really need you to own in on this. I feel like you're stronger here. And I had to kill pride a lot of times I tend to think I can do a lot of things by myself, but I was quickly, awakened to the fact that that was not the case. So I say all this to say that family could be tricky, and while that demand can be placed a little bit more upfront, it becomes more tricky with friends. More of like, maybe best friends, you can still place a little bit of that demand, but friends, colleagues, co-workers, I probably won't place a demand on my co-worker, but I think we have to come to a place where we can ask for help. We can be honest with a friend and truly say, hey, I really do think that I need your support in this area of my life. I really do think that I feel like it would help our relationship be better if I feel like you see me more of this aspect. I think a lot of times we might think people are thinking about us more than we think they are. And that's something I'm learning also, is that people have their own lives. People are busy. Life is busy. And honestly, I could be a really good person, be genuine, and genuinely not be thinking about you in a season of my life. So I think if we have more of these conversations, it really does help to close that gap of relationships. And also, I would say again, manage expectations. I am truly trying to not be that person that demands it. I can express the need for it, but placing a demand on someone that is probably going through life on their own too, sometimes just puts a strain on the relationship. Now, I would say, what does support look like in regards to, while we've communicated our need, I think we need to come to a place where we recognize how to also give support. It's quite interesting because I know sometimes it's easy to give, to receive, and not be given. I've had to challenge myself this year. I was a part of one of my friends' wedding, and once I stepped out of my wedding, a conversation that kept playing on my heart is, like I said, how do I make sure another bride feels the way I felt? And of course, God gave me the opportunity. One of my other best friends was getting married also. It was a good time to really show up for her in her wedding. And honestly, the first thing I wanted to do was, I would be your girl that is literally grabbing anything you need, because I felt like she needed that. So it gave me an opportunity to be able to serve somebody else. Not only because she did it for me, but because I couldn't shake the feeling of the subtle, silent support that no one saw me experiencing, but was always there. So we're coming to the end of this episode. I really want to challenge someone out there. If you don't feel like you're being supported, I really do challenge you to have those conversations with people. Be open. Let people know what you need. A lot of times, you never know. Closed mouths don't get fed. Let people know what you need. Give grace. Forgive. Trust me, people fall short. If there is, a person that you feel like you constantly tell and maybe they're just not stepping up, maybe it is time to know that that person is maybe not the ideal person to continue to, build relationships with. But if you don't take anything from this episode, I truly want you to know that grace can continue to be given, support can continue to be asked for, and I want to challenge you to also go out there and find ways to show support so we don't lose support in our community. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. My name is Gift Nwosu again. Please follow us on YouTube at Breathe Through Podcast. Follow me on Instagram at Breathe Through Podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all Breathe Through Podcast. Check out all our previous episodes. You would not regret it. I think they're life-changing, and I think you'll always find a reason to learn something. Also, I want you to drop in the comments some way that support has been felt in a meaningful way to you, and just other ways that you believe that you plan on showing support to someone else. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Love you.